Welcome to Scaling New Heights, a program by engineers for engineers. We'll take you behind the scenes and provide a small glimpse of what it takes to create the software and services that make our modern world possible. As you'll learn, the problems aren't just technical, they're also human. Each executive on our program is a member of the ENG community. ENG stands for Engage, Network, Grow, and it's a peer network of more than 200 top technical executives at leading SaaS companies. They're each on a personal and professional journey to scale to new heights. Joining us today is Nico Fischbach, CTO of Forcepoint. Nico's also a member of ENG, the peer network of CTOs and VPEs from leading SaaS companies. Nico was hired into Forcepoint 4 years ago as CTO for cloud. The company had been selling on-prem solutions for decades, but didn't have experience with cloud and SaaS solutions. So his mandate was to create a successful strategy and offering and help ensure the company could execute in the market. He's here today to share some of that story. Nico, welcome to Scaling New Heights.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you for having me. And, so happy to be part of the ENG group. So looking forward to this podcast with you.
So set the stage for us. You came into the company. How are you thinking about the transition?
It's interesting, right? So let me set the scene a little bit. So Forcepoint is a cybersecurity company. And for a large chunk of my career, like 17 years, I was working for a telco. So I was on the buyer side and not on the vendor side. So that was kind of the first part of the journey is like, do I want to go to the dark side? Cybersecurity was always something I've been doing probably since the the early 90s. So it's like, how do you make a hobby your job? That was the one of the interesting pieces. And then look at the company. Matt Moynihan, the CEO, reached out to me because we go back a little bit. We worked together through advisory boards. So it was interesting, and he piqued my interest because it was one, cybersecurity, hot market, not just network security, which is where I'm coming from, but also data protection, what people nowadays call user activity monitoring. So it was really interesting to not just look at a single product, but maybe think of like you said, how do you build a SaaS platform going forward? So there was kind of a journey to it. So that really piqued my interest. At some point, I was like, okay, I'm going to bite. I'm going to join Forcepoint and trying to make an impact.
Right, and on Scaling New Heights, we often talk about that hero's journey. You have a big call to quest, this big thing that you're trying to do for the company, and there's a process along the way. There's the valley of death and overcoming all of those obstacles and hurdles. For you guys, what was that transformational moment?
I think, like you said, Forcepoint, or the companies that made Forcepoint, were selling a lot of on-prem devices and components, the typical rack and stack approach. We had a cloud offering that was, focusing on just cloud security. So the idea was like, how do you take that to the next level? And, honestly, people, in the early days of SaaS, were just looking at product and engineering and say like, hey, you guys, build us a SaaS product and build us a SaaS platform, right? And I think that was that valley of death, like you called it, where, at some point you try to build something, but the rest of the company looks like you, and you're this bizarre team trying to build something completely different, right? And at some point, I think the company management realized that we need to go beyond just looking at this through the product and engineering lens, but actually change the whole company. So a SaaS transformation is not just like building a new product. It is actually taking the company on a journey when you're not a SaaS-born startup to get there. And we had this project that we kicked off, which we called Phoenix, right? And the name is, speaks for it, right? Like, how do you create a second birth out of very strong assets, a very strong product offering, but a different go-to-market, a different way to build it, the convergence of all of that, a new stack, a new technology stack, and the whole thing from transforming this, taking the best of breed that we had in terms of security and data protection components, taking them to the cloud, but the whole journey from customer success, customer experience, onboarding, in-life management, but also the financial side. What are the metrics you're looking at? Because the metrics in the SaaS world and, how you do the billings, the entitlements is very different, right? So all of that, and I think that pivotal moment was probably when we all kind of, as a company, rallied beyond, what we used to call, Project Phoenix.
Were there specific hurdles or challenges that, as you look back, were the most difficult for you and the team and the company?
I mean, there's the typical one that you will see, resistance to change, right? Which is, pretty common across the board, which is very natural. So how do you take people on board that journey? How do you convince them that this needs to happen, right? And I really want to have this conversation that it's, beyond just technology. I think the other one is finding the right talent. When we kicked this off, in 2017, late 16, 20, early 2017, that market is already hot. How do you find that talent that on one hand side has the experience, but on the other hand side also is getting poached by the GAFAMs, right? So how do you play in that, right? And in this very hot, market that, we saw there. What else? I mean, the whole licensing go-to-market model, in the SaaS world, the product is core. You start from the product and you build everything around the product, from the whole journey, from POCs to onboarding to in live to how you market the product. I mean, you saw it with Zoom, right? And the thing that we talk right now is like, how do you build the next Zoom of cybersecurity, right? That go to market, the freemium models, how is it called by Anderson Horowitz? I think it was kind of growth plus sales, right? Where you actually start, a different way in sales and marketing. So it's really all of it. How do you change the mindset in your sales organization? How do you change the sales plays? I mean, it was all of that. I mean, and to me, it was fascinating, right? Because I came in, I'm a network engineer by trade, and I was like, I learned a lot in the process. So I actually enjoyed it. It was sometimes painful, to go back to, some of those dips. But wow, I mean, it was a journey of learning for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really sounds like you were hired as CTO, but your role was much broader than that. Can you elaborate a little bit?
I think it's true, right? When I was hired, the role was kind of twofold. One, the more kind of internal facing we just talked about role, like strategy, technology, working with engineering, coming up with the architecture, the platform, looking at the execution, partnering with product management on building the offering, and then expanding that into product marketing, the sales organizations, and so on. Obviously, the other one is the external facing side. What people would call more the field type CTOs, where you are more of a thought leader. You represent the company. You push the boundaries. You're being perceived and received as somebody who knows where the industry is going. Clearly, I think that was an important one. And then the third piece or the third element to it is, twofold, like the voice of the customer. So taking the voice of the customer back into the organization, into product management, into engineering and the leadership, and also being a trusted advisor to clients and prospects. And what I mean by trusted advisor is not just the sales function of pitching something to somebody. Is actually sometimes, and I've been in meetings where I told the client or potential prospect in front of my sales colleagues that, if you want to do this, maybe Forcepoint is not the right solution. For that part, yes, but this is not core to what we do. And it's like, how do you maintain that trust over time, as a CTO in the field, right? You never pitch, you never oversell, be truthful, be proud of what you build, but be very truthful about what you build. I think is important as well.
Yeah, very important. So as you look back, what would you do differently?
I mean, there's many things, right? I think differently, one of them is speed of execution and velocity. How do we get people on board quicker, both, in terms of skills, FTEs, but also onboarding the other teams, and not requiring like a company-wide transformation program to have this kind of, all hands on deck type approach to delivering the plan. So that's probably one. The other one that we kind of learned is the approach might have been too radical. We came into this, not just me, but also some of my peers in engineering and other groups in product management, that there was an old and a new, right? You maintain the old, the cash cow, you move to a sustain mode, and the best way forward to build SaaS is you start greenfield from the ground up with a complete new offering. Experience has proven that you need best of both worlds. There will always be like an old stadium and a new stadium. There might be a bridge plan, but it's much more subtle than that, right? So there's an old existing technology stack. People look at it as like, oh, that's just technical debt. Well, but that's what's bringing the money in right now. And, people put a lot of thinking into it. People put a lot of brain power into building this, and it was successful. Like, how do we replicate this? How we, and we changed the approach from, old versus new to best of old using new technologies. So you see more of a transition from old to new rather than something which is kind of more radical. And the good thing, I think, overall, going back to strategy, I think we got kind of proven right. We laid out this strategy, late 16, early 17. And, this year, or end of last year, I'm trying to recall now, the time flies, SASE came out. So Gartner came out with Secure Access Service Edge. And you look at it, we looked at this slide, it's hang on. So it's basically our architecture, but it has the Gartner logo on it, right? And so like, from what you said is kind of peak and death and coming back out. I mean, that's kind of the recognition when you actually see that the strategy you laid out, the one you're executing against, is exactly what Gartner is telling everybody, this is where the world is going, right? So I think that's probably more of the proud moment. And finally, then, when the first new SaaS enabled products hit the market.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about your proudest moment, but maybe that was it. Is that what you would say kind of stands out for you as the highlight?
I think it is, right? I mean, we just, we had one, come out, late May, early June, which was the first one, like a private access, product, which was fully SaaS native. We just have one we call like more insider threat, risk adaptive, data protection one come out actually 2 weeks ago, right? And finally seeing this like baby making it out, leveraging some of the new stuff, also leveraging some of the old stuff, helping to transition for the latter example, from legacy DLP to actually risk adaptive DLP and helping clients, leverage the assets. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, but yeah, it was a tough journey.
Yeah, and you're in this case, you're helping to transform a company, but also an industry. You're having broader impact, and that always feels great for those of us.
Oh, it is totally. I mean, you could say like you're creating a new category. You're trying to transform the way the world operates. I mean, and the other thing is, but again, you have to be truthful, right? Because SASE, I mean, every company out there, even if they have nothing to do with SASE, they have kind of, this SASE stamp on their marketing right now. And it's like, how do you differentiate? How do you deliver like a true product that is going to help companies? I mean, it's cool to sell, to ship a product and get it out the door. But at the end of the day, it's like when you see clients signing up for it and you see their eyes go like, oh, this is really cool. Wow, this is what we needed. Like, this is going to help us. I mean, I think that's the really cool moment, when you see clients adopting it and, and have the clients do the marketing. I mean, you've been in marketing for a very long time, right? Previously, like when the customer tells the story, it is so much better than when it's you, the vendor, telling the story.
Yeah, totally. All right, well, let's switch to a quick lightning round so the audience can get to know you a little bit. What's your least favorite food? Now, you're a huge foodie, I know this, but what is your least favorite food?
Least favorite? Wow. The thing is, I eat, virtually everything. Sometimes people say even dead or alive. Yeah, dead or alive doesn't make a difference. My least favorite food, wow. That's a good one. I don't know what the name is in English, but when I was a kid, there's stuff like salsify, some roots that, we used to eat as a kid, back home that grows in the garden. That would probably be my least favorite food, but nowadays I would eat it. So there's really not something I would say like I really would not eat it.
Dogs or cats?
I used to have 3 dogs when I was a kid. Alex is pushing very hard right now that we get a dog, but we'll see.
Is there?
And by the way, cats, the neighbor's cat spends more time at our place than back home. So the other day I told my neighbor, I'm going to start to charge him for it, and maybe we should do adoption papers for the cat.
This is the longest lightning round that we've ever had. You're funny. All right. So is there a new habit that you hope everybody keeps after COVID?
Cooking. I mean, I used to cook a lot. I think lately being home, way too much, I spend way too much time cooking and emptying and, refilling my wine cellar. But, this is probably one you need to keep. The other one that people should keep, I would say, because of the Zoom fatigue, go outside, take those, take the time out, cancel some of those meetings, when you don't have to be there, and I've started to do this much more lately. It's like, just go outside, take some downtime during the day because the days are crazy long, so I'm actually looking forward for people to travel again, so have less time on Zoom.
Last question. What is the biggest or scariest thing you've ever personally scaled?
scaled or
Scaled.
survived.
What is it?
What do you mean? You know, like
the scariest thing you've ever personally scaled, like that, you know, go up or over something.
over something. I mean, surviving an avalanche, does that count?
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I was thinking, like scale it. I really didn't scale it. I kind of survived it, right? So yeah, no, backcountry heli skiing in Whistler, probably, I don't remember now, like 7 years ago. Being on top of an avalanche and having the whole thing move down and making it out of it and looking like a white Yeti. Yeah, that would probably be
that is
one. So
that is very scary. Nobody on this show yet has scaled an avalanche before, so you win that one. Nico, it's been great to have you on Scaling New Heights. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Christine, and good luck with the podcasts. You know, I love the flow, I love the questions, so looking forward to listening to a few more.
Great. If you want to hear more stories or learn about Eng and how to become a member of the community, visit scalyr.com. That's SCALYR.com. Thank you.